Welcome to the Holistic Workflow Management discussion. We're going to be talking about HCPs, HCO engagements, third-party management, and conflicts of interest. My name is Nikki Etris. I'm the Director of Customer Success at Lextegrity. I have about 17 years of IT project management experience under my belt, implementing custom software solutions, and really just building programs around implementation. And I just recently moved into customer success at Lextegrity to focus in on our customers and making sure that they're finding the value that they would like from our products. So we have here on our panel, Himani Shah. She's the head of global compliance operations at Alnylam Pharmaceuticals. Oh, thank you. Then we have Brooke Mishler. She's the compliance officer for the Americas at Cordis. And then Erin Lewis is the director of legal and compliance operations at Cordis. Very good. You're all following directions well. I appreciate it. Now, I do want to encourage, this is, informal, ask questions along the way. Okay, we're going to be talking about some things, making some comments. If you don't understand something or have a question, just raise a hand. We'll get a microphone to you and you can ask your question. But we will also have a Q&A session at the end as well. Okay. Now, digital transformation is about making compliance programs more effective and making them more efficient. And that's what we're going to hear about from you guys today, and just the specific ways that upgrading your compliance workflow tool really enabled that for you. The first way that automation has made your programs more efficient and effective has been to harmonize multiple controls into our tool. And that's what I'd really like to start just digging into further. Maybe we can start with you, Brooke or Erin. Could you just share a little bit about Cordis's journey and that holistic workflow management?
Sure. Thanks, Nikki, and thanks, everybody. So we spun off from Cardinal Health in August of 2021, a small med device company, Cordis, and we, from a legal and compliance perspective, they gave us nothing except our HCP engagement tool, which is the one thing that everybody hated the most, which is clearly why they let us take it. So, when I was, trying to stand up this legal compliance operations function, I was, setting up the ethics hotline, investigations, e-discovery, all these technical solutions for legal compliance. And I said, hey, at least we have this one platform. I know it's terrible, but can we just leave it alone for 6 months or a year and then deal with that down the road? I got so many other things I've got to figure out how to solve for until then. But really, it was the business that came to us and went to management, really, not to us, and said, we cannot stand this business process. It's totally complex. It doesn't work for us. It's terrible. So in an effort to, increase, simplify things in the business and, what were the real major problems at Cordis leaving Cardinal, this platform came up over and over and over again, our HCP engagement platform. So it quickly turned into, hey, this is your focus now. Like, it was like 4 months in, they're like, you have to replace this HCP engagement tool. And I had been talking with the Lextegrity team in Parth. I remember it was, late March of 2020. COVID had just started. I have the picture in my brain because I was in my basement working on a card table, and my kids were home upstairs with the babysitter right when COVID started. It was the second conversation we had with Parth. So when, this split came from Cardinal, I had this relationship with Lextegrity in the back of my mind saying, hey, we really like what we saw with their workflow, how simple it was. Our training in our old tool for a submitter and approver took over 2 hours just to train them on how to use this tool to submit an engagement. Our tool now is we almost don't have to do training because it's so intuitive. So, when I was tasked with replacing that tool, it's like, hey, I've got somebody in mind. And then, also as that relationship developed, and talking with Verity over months and months and months, we've slowly implemented a lot of other solutions with Lextegrity. So it really started from our customers, our internal customers were so frustrated at our old process that they forced us into change. So I'll let Brooke talk about, she's really the business facing, part of compliance. So I'll let her talk about, what she's seen from the business and the feedback we're getting from them.
Yeah. So I had the opportunity to work with the end users, right, on because I'm an approver, but the submitters, right, the name of our previous program was like a bad word, right? That's how much they hated it. And it was a part of a simplification process across the whole company, right? We are now a smaller company. We want to simplify all processes. We want to be more efficient. What company does not want that, right? And that's why this other process got thrown in and prioritized with visibility from the executive leadership team. It was a very big deal. So, we obviously understood frustrations from the business as far as, the usability or lack of usability and intuitiveness of our other program. Because the platform was so painful, there were so many workarounds where there were paper forms or Word documents that were completed, submitted by email, approved by email, and then we had like an administrative type person putting them into the system because the business people didn't want to deal with the system. So, we had an administrative person putting it in and dealing with the system, and then having to go back and forth within the system, very painful. So we did that all via email. So much was done outside of the system. It honestly looked in the system as if everything was approved and maybe the activity was done before it actually got put in the approval system. It was more like a document retention system by the time, we were at this point in using it. And so it was a full assessment of, okay, across the globe, what are the forms everybody's using? What is the process? What are the needs? And I know we'll get into more of the nitty gritty, but just, listening to the end users, what are the pain points? What are our goals? And then going back to Verity and team and saying, okay, here's our wish list. Here's our priority. How can we get to, a better state?
And then do you guys want to talk about the solution for that? I mean, what did that look like for you?
For the pain points?
Yeah.
Oh, in your system now?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Happy to talk all day about that. So, first of all, the previous workflow in the program was a one size fits nobody. It wasn't good for any region, any specific workflow. That was very obvious after my first assessment because I had only been focusing on US and Canada. So this was my learning opportunity on how other regions work. And so it was very clear that we needed a different set of questions for different areas. For example, we call China a region, but they really do have their own. When I went to Raj, so here are my regions: China, APAC, not China, and then Latin America, US, Canada, right? Because they have their own set of requirements and they needed their own questions that no one else needed. And they could accommodate for that. And that was, of course, amazing to the China team because I don't know how large all of your companies are, but being from an international company with a base in the US, our teammates outside of the US always felt like everything was made for the US team and not for them. And so this was an opportunity to really listen to them and give them what they needed. And I mean, amazing, not just from the compliance teammates, but the business themselves being translated into 14, or is it 16 languages now out of the box, around there, right? Having the translations so they could, the end submitters, have it in their local language was another huge opportunity. The forms that we eliminated, I can think of 6 off the top of my head of 6 different processes that were then captured within the system. And then partnering with other teams in the company, for example, the quality team, we implemented one single question in our Engage workflow. It's a yes or no. And that eliminated a form that I quantified saved us over 200 hours in the US a year, I wish I had a global number for you, but just to show you how we could, if we, pulled the right partners in on the front end, or even, I guess you could do it at any point, just adding one question could eliminate a whole nother process, which was obviously amazing. And the fact that it's a one-stop shop for compliance, because there's always so many, we'll go here for this, and we have that memorized of where to go for what form. But if we show somebody one time, 6 months later, they're not going to remember where to go, right? So we have now on the landing page, you can get to compliance policies from this page. You can get to the Engage workflow. You can get to external funding. You can get to
the ethics hotline.
The ethics hotline, right? So if they don't remember on the intranet where to find something, they can, you could still go to our ethics. We still have a website on the intranet, but we just link to that page through the Lextegrity homepage, the landing page, which has been very helpful.
And that flexibility of workflow has, that flowed from the HCP engagement platform, pre-approval platform, conflicts of interest, third-party risk management, right? So just having that ability to do that basic branching logic, and change questionnaires based on, where you're from or what type of engagement you're doing, has really, transformed our solution and gave a much better solution to our customers, just to have things that are really relevant to them, things that we care about them answering that question. I don't need you to answer 15 questions if you don't need to. And that's what they hated so much in our last platform, was just one workflow that you're trying to solve for everything. So, just that flexibility that we've seen across the solutions in Lextegrity has been super helpful for our customers.
That's great. Thank you, guys. Amani, I'm combining your name and your company. It's a gift. It's a gift. Thank you. Amani. And Al-Nilam, can you tell us a little bit of what that looked like for you guys?
Absolutely. And first, I think I may implement that landing page. I think that's a great idea. So thank you for that. And I'll try not to repeat what everybody else has said. And I'm super loud. So is this making it?
No, it's good. It's good.
Okay, great. My family tells me I never need a microphone. So I think the 3 goals we had were global consistency and visibility, 1, flexibility, 2, and then 3 was really user friendliness. I think you've touched on how intuitive the system is. We've just run demos because we're about to launch the tool. And the people who are using it, and these are the business people, not the compliance people, are coming back with nothing but positive feedback. And I didn't have a chance to tell you guys that yet, but it's been really positive so far. Secondly, we, with the help of Lextegrity, used, and this is where the technology escapes me, but what's called an API. So all the fields that our users type into the Lextegrity tool, which we call ACAP, Al-Nilam Compliance Approval Platform, that will automatically pre-populate into the contracting tool. So one of the big pain points we had as a company was, I'm the business person, I want to get this done quickly. I've filled out 20 questions here, and now I have to fill out the same exact 20 questions. And we've worked with our legal ops folks to make sure some fields are locked. So if you've set the service hours and fair market value in the ACAP tool, they can't change that. But if the HCP or the vendor has a new address or something, we'll probably let them change that in downstream. And this is part of, I think you said we have a larger buying program at Al-Nilam. We're looking to simplify the procurement tools, the contracting tools, the compliance tools. So that's the user friendliness bit. The global consistency and visibility bit is also really important. We were talking earlier today. Right now, we have 3 or 4 tools with multiple instances in each tool for external funding. So when somebody asks me, how much have we given to this patient advocacy group, I have to contact 4 people. Some people are searching through manual forms. Some are searching through Excel. And we're searching through our homegrown tool, which is what we're moving away from. And then we compile a number. We're 92% feeling like it's accurate and we didn't miss anything. We're looking to make an external funding tile down the road, and to have that central repository is going to be amazing. Also, HCP FMV. We set 1 fair market value for an HCP, regardless of the person who's engaging the HCP for what activity, wherever they're based in the globe. That's the fair market value for that doctor. So in our homegrown tool, you could set, there's a range and you could set it. So you can still set a range, but we're making sure that that's consistent. And then this leads into my third point, that there's still a great deal of flexibility. So if we do need an HCP fair market value exception, we can do that. If we need to add a local approver in France because they have those additional regulatory requirements, we can do that for France. For an advisory board, sometimes you want to have 12 advisors, but you don't know if all of them can come. So you don't want to really slow down your planning. So now the tool allows us to have 8 backups. So we get all 20 approved. And my math, forgive me if that doesn't add up.
With you.
Yeah, okay. So you do extra HCPs, you get them approved up front. You can add HCPs later without having to redo the whole activity approval. That's amazing. And then you can kind of decommission or deactivate the ones you don't need. We have a closeout repository. So now When the activity is done, depending on the type of activity it is, you can house your closeout materials like for an ad board. All of that's in one place. So I hope that was not so repetitive, but building on some of your themes.
That was great. Thank you. Erin, I know your team has implemented our third-party management workflow. Can you share a little bit about that solution and what benefits it's brought you?
Yeah, it's the most recent one that we've launched here in the past couple months. We've always said we need a perfect solution for China and something that works for everybody else. That's where a majority of the due diligence requirements are. Again, another situation where we left Cardinal and everyone said we do not want to use that tool. What else can we use? So we started looking at the Lextegrity tool, and just being able to customize the internal business rationale questionnaire, and then trigger the external due diligences and focus on being able to set the risk scoring that's important to us, based on the country, based on the region, based on the type of high risk distributor, high risk vendor. I think it's something that we're happy with how it's turned out, and working through the implementation and really launching it global. But again, something that we let China lead because it's most relevant to them, but we're able to customize that for the other regions and other countries. So and then the other part that was really helpful was to be able to import the data from our old tool and let the Lextegrity team leverage that, or do the manpower, the heavy lifting in that process of implementing or ingesting the data from the old system into Lextegrity system. So we have a very strong starting point for Zach and the team in China. That was also really helpful and huge time saving for us.
That was bringing in the historical data.
The historical data from the old tool. Yeah. So we left Cardinal with a Excel export of that tool and was able to leverage that.
Very nice. Okay, so it sounds like you've all touched a little bit about the approval logic as being kind of a key differentiator in the Lextegrity tool. Maybe we can kind of look into a little bit more detail each of those. Maybe Brooke, you could start us out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as we said, we can ask different questions based on the activity type, but that also may require different approvers, right? So, or depending on the region. So, for example, in Japan, finance approves everything within the system, but in the US, finance, there's no such thing. And so in our other tool, it would have to be finance for everybody or finance for nobody, right? So we can, based on the activity type and the region in which they choose, which approvers they want. And it's the business, of course, loves that and appreciates that flexibility. And then going a step further, in our previous program, if something was submitted and you needed the submitter to update something or change something, or let's say you uploaded the wrong CV to a profile of an HCP, we'd actually have to contact their support. We'd have to put in a support ticket to change that document in that profile. We didn't have that ability. So it would delay so much. So we can, from an approver standpoint, right, we can choose the approvers that you need depending on the type. And we have visibility into the profile. We can say, no, please update this, change this. And then what about, the additional approvers? I wanted to circle back on that from a cross-border perspective. So we had technically two processes. We had a cross-border process if we wanted to engage somebody outside of your border. And then once that was approved, then they went into the system to do the engagement. So it was actually two processes. And within this tool, we were able to add the functionality of adding an additional approver. So if in the middle, they decide for your advisory board, like maybe everyone was from the United States, and then they said, actually, we need somebody from another country. In the old tool, we'd have to cancel this whole request and start over, or just do a separate one, and they're connected, but not in the system, right? So there's actually two requests for the same activity. So you don't have the global view of how many people were a part of that. And so now we have the question of, do you require additional approvers? Yes or no? And then how many? And they can get added on at any point. It doesn't, break it if it's, well, this has already been approved for 3 months and we're adding somebody new. We can add an additional approver and not have to start all over. So there's some more I could talk a lot about approver workflows.
That's okay. That's okay. And I know you've mentioned before, and you actually mentioned a little bit earlier with the different languages. That's also useful to be, pushing it over to different approvers and being able to them to be able to see it in their own language.
Exactly. Yeah. So from the cross-border or an advisory board perspective, right, we can have 3 different compliance reviewers from different countries, and they can put it in their local language.
Very nice. Hamani? Yeah.
So, and we have the option, and I believe you do as well, not only to add additional approvers throughout the workflow, but also to add collaborators. So if you want somebody to just see what you're doing, they don't necessarily slow down or bottleneck it, but that's also an option which we're designing into our new tool. We also have, I don't know how many of you experience this, but in a lot of our departments, you generally, sometimes the business owner isn't the one inputting it. Maybe it's somebody more junior to them, for example, inputting the details. Well, from a compliance perspective, you still want the business owner to be accountable. So in our old tool, it just allowed for, in our homegrown tool, I should say, it allowed for just one person to enter the information. And now in the new tool, we have the person, the enterer, as well as the business owner who's ultimately accountable for that. So I think that's a really important piece. I think, Erin, you meant, oh, sorry.
Well, I want to add on to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because, when you submit something back to the submitter, and let's say it's like, well, I don't understand this business objective, right? It's not very clear. There's something missing. Well, they're not the subject matter experts. So then they have to send an email to the project owner and say, Brooke asked this question. And then they copy and paste, and maybe it doesn't make sense. And then you got to go back and forth. But from the collaboration feature, right, that subject matter expert or the project manager can pop in and they can do the typing. So you've eliminated 5 emails and confusion by like, no, you go in the tool and you fix it. I'll handle the submission right back and forth and all of that. But that was a huge pain point, even for me, and saving the emails and the confusion, because this poor person who's submitting has no idea. And I felt so bad. You feel so bad, like, sorry, now you have to go do this, right? There's just wasting a lot of time.
Yeah, that's absolutely 100% our experience. And I won't belabor the cross-border point, but it's been very helpful for us as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's a question here. Did you want a microphone for questions? Useful.
If this is, I don't want to change the subject, so if this is not part of the
Go for it.
the game plan, just we can kick it to the next session. But I think the folks from Cordis mentioned France. And I'm not sure, Himani, if you guys are using the tool in Europe.
Yeah, and so France,
So-
I think I mentioned France, that we
France. Okay,
needed the
so-
additional approver. Yeah.
My question is just sort of what kind of data privacy issues have you guys come across in trying to implement it? Because I've previously implemented a tool in Europe, had to go to German Works Council and all things like that. So just sort of the kind of the planning and effort that you would have had to do on that front. I'd be curious to hear about.
So I'm also
If anything.
promising to follow up with you on with more details, but let me give you my basic. So this all started before I joined Alnylam, but I think 2 things. We also had to work with the German Works Council, as well as I think France and the Netherlands too. They have approved the launch of our tool, and I'm happy to talk through. And actually, Lextegrity was a big help. Nikki, you were a big help.
Yeah.
Helping us prepare for those conversations, because I'm sure you've dealt with it with different clients.
Yes.
And then for the HCP, I know there's a privacy consent. I think when we collect their CVs to process fair market value and the like, so it has either a link or some, Raj, I'm sorry if you know that, somehow sends out this HCP consent, or at least a link to the consent from a privacy. But Leela, I'm happy to get more details from the privacy team and work with you on that.
So yeah, that is definitely something that we have experience with, is just dealing with those global work councils. We've heard the questions, we know where they're going to dig in, and we've gained the experience through doing it so many times that we know the answers to the questions. We know what they're looking for. We know what they're concerned about, so we can share that and point them in the right direction. It usually makes things go a lot smoother.
Yeah, your prep for us was instrumental. So thank you. And I did think of a couple other, if we have time,
Sure.
Approval points. We tended to have compliance and legal both look at a lot of things. And then when I dug in, they were looking at the exact same things. So and it slowed down the process, right? So what we've done when designing the new tool is to really streamline who's looking for what. And now compliance for certain things, especially, for example, if legal's already looking at it, we only have compliance review if there's a trigger. So if the HCP has exceeded X number of engagements, then compliance will be included in the workflow. So that's really, really been helpful. Erin, I think you mentioned nesting questions. So you only have to answer certain questions if a response was affirmative to the parent, the parent and child. So that's streamlined that process. If you're going on vacation for 2 weeks, you can delegate an approver. So because that used to just sit in the system and people wouldn't know, and then they'd go to the admin person, they'd say, oh, so-and-so is on vacation. It was 20 emails to figure out that somebody was on vacation. And now before, I think if I'm an approver and I leave for vacation, I can delegate making sure I'm saying it right. I can delegate to somebody else so it won't slow things down.
I have two more things
Yeah,
about approvals
definitely.
that I just thought of. So I was going to say the backups, right? I never used to have a backup. And so on my days off, blowing up my phone, can you approve this right now? This is emergency, right? Instead of having the delegate, but also changing approvers, right? What if somebody's out unexpectedly, right? We don't always, there's surprises sometimes. We don't have to go to support to say, Kyle, can you change this for me? I can do it myself. And as an admin, change approvers, which is also very helpful. And then also it's mobile friendly. So if I'm, on a field trip with my son, I can, if somebody needed to change one thing, I'm not going to review the whole thing usually from my phone. There's so much information, but you can for an iPad or a phone, and you can provide review and approval easily from a mobile device.
And I think you're probably utilizing that collaborators functionality as well, just assigning that to people while you're out. So our questionnaire and approval logic is actually one of the things we're most proud of. So it's great to hear your reactions to it. You sound very excited. Some of our customers have also added aggregate spend caps and escalation for certain approvers, and that's only if support is above like a certain threshold over a period of time. So there's even more nuance that we can manage with that. Now, switching gears a little, I know administration of software tools. I've been around them for a long time. It's sometimes a bit of a nuisance for people. So I just wanted to kind of ask your guys' opinion on those, maybe Himani and Brooke. I know you've both been impressed with the level of administrative control that you have just directly in the tool. So maybe you could share a little bit about the benefits there, Himani.
Yeah, sure. So I think we've touched on a lot of this. I'm just looking at my notes here, but we have had unlimited, we're having unlimited users as part of our license, which is great because it's really been expanding our ability to get everyone into the tool globally, rather than having just certain admins have access to it. I think we touched on a lot of this, but and this doesn't really get into more of the control piece, but it did give us, I should say we took the ability to customize and we did it. So for example, we have a lot of people new enroll. Our company's growing really fast. A lot of the approvers are generally even new enroll, medical, legal, and even compliance. So what we've done is we've customized the approver language in some cases. So when medical gets the activity to approve, they can say it actually directs them to what they're looking for. I mean, this is not to supplement. This is to supplement training, right? This is not in replacement of training for them to carry out their responsibilities. But having that helpful reminder that this is what you're looking for can really go a long way, especially when people are new or changing roles.
Yeah, so I would say the ease to navigate, just having access to the data, right? The all request summary. And I didn't have visibility into really anything in the other tool from my standpoint. Aaron and his team had a little bit more because I was not an administrator, so I can't really compare. He can provide that. But the fact that someone could ask me, well, a new business person wants to engage in HCP, they can't see the history, but they heard that, oh, they did an activity last year at this time with this person. Can you tell me? It is so easy for me to go and search a name of an HCP and find, well, how many times have we engaged? Was it this project, right? And provide that information to the new project manager or new marketer in that area to understand the history because they weren't a part of it. They may not have even been at the company. And then so think of admin. So what do I do most often? Change of approvers. Oh, looking at auditing trails, right? You can see a timestamp of who did what. That's also, that visibility is amazing.
Even as simple as changing the date of the event or something like that. We couldn't, I could see all kinds of stuff as admin in the old system, but it didn't matter. I couldn't change anything. So, we had to submit a ticket for anything I wanted to change. We had to submit a ticket.
You had a full-time employee to manage tickets with the system.
Yeah.
Somebody who, yeah.
It's embarrassing, but it's true.
It's true.
Yeah.
Okay. And I do also want to note, and we're going to hear a little bit more about this in the panel later this afternoon, that you can actually also integrate sanctions, debarment, and adverse media screening of third parties, HCPs, and HCOs directly in the platform.
We do that, and it's great.
Yes, that's with LSEG's WorldCheck data. So we're going to hear a little bit more about that later. Very exciting what they're doing, and we're able to do just directly in the tool. And finally, Erin, I know our tool has helped Cordis in just streamlining your end-to-end aggregate spend reporting process. Some tools in the marketplace combine those like workflow and ag spend reporting, and they claim that they're integrated. We actually take the view that those are really separate things. You have budget approval, and then you have your actual spend. Your actual spend is what you want to pull from your ERP system. It's not what the sales team tells you that they spent in a closeout, of a workflow tool. So can you tell us a little bit more about your approach and maybe how you've gained some efficiencies with that?
Yeah, that conversation I had back in March of 2020 in the basement started COVID. My team's like, you lit into Parth on how are you going to solve, how are we going to solve for transparency reporting? And, Parth's like, that's not something we focus on. I was like, well, that's great, but that's something that I have to solve for. And, our old tool, it said it did it all in one, and the reports that it spit out were actually terrible. And we had to do a ton of, data manipulation and fixing of that report. So not that it worked previously, but, it was trying to do everything in that one tool. So it really, challenged me to think outside of the box and say, okay, here's a great, pre-approval workflow that's easy to use. But, I really need to go to the source data, our payment system in JDE. That's where the actual money is. Even if they approve this amount of money, it might be slightly different. So for transparency reporting, and we did have like a payment closure reconciliation process in the old tool, but that process, especially at a company as big as Cardinal Health, those payments didn't happen for 2-3 months out. So now you're focused on your submitter to go back and actually wait those 2-3 months, and then remember to go back and put your actual payment data into the system so it would flow into the reports. So that didn't work anyway. So what we've done now is partnered with Baker Tilly, and they actually perform all of our transparency reporting and do all the data crunching. So now we bring in the Lextegrity data, we bring in the JDE data, we bring in Concur data. And, my team's done a lot of work to tie those things together, putting Lextegrity IDs into the invoice so it's in JDE, putting the JDE number into Lextegrity to try to get all those, all that data mapping, accurate as much as possible. So we've taken the transparency reporting out of our HCP engagement tool and said, hey, let's go to the source data and then tie that into Lextegrity's data, and then they, prepare those reports for us. So, it was a big challenge for me to really change my mindset on how the whole process should work. But at the end of the day, it's working great. We have a good relationship with Baker Tilly, and we're always working on cleaning up our data. And at the end of the day, it was a much cheaper solution for us, which was huge. Almost my entire budget of legal and compliance ops, is roughly close to equal what we were paying for our previous HCP engagement tool and transparency reporting tool. So, that first overlap a year was a little bit of rough, for the business, but it's like, looking outside, a year out, we're in a much better position from a budget standpoint, just because, that tool was so expensive and everybody hated it and it didn't work. It's like, this does not make sense. So So we're in a better place, and really just looking at the source data, the true source data to feed transparency reporting.
That's very important. Thank you for sharing that. Since we do have a little bit of time left, I was wondering if you guys could share. I'm more of a logical person, so like, what does it take to actually get this into your company? Like, what's the business case that you're building, that you built to get approval to do this? I don't know who wants to speak to that.
I can start.
Okay.
So from my standpoint, it was the complaints, about the tool that I had no control over, right? I didn't pick the tool. I didn't choose the tool. I'm not in charge of the tool, right? Because remember, I was only focused on US and Canada at the time. And so, yeah, I will listen, but we can't do anything about this. And we've reiterated that a lot, that nobody liked it, but it is what it is. And so Aaron can talk about the budgeting. He just alluded to that about the cost savings. Obviously, that's what administrators would like to hear, if it costs less. And a big piece of it was the demos that we had. So we had the Lextegrity team provide demos, and then we did just an easy Microsoft form questionnaire, asking the actual submitters, right, the end users, specific questions, and rated it on a scale, right? But asking them to rate certain things. Now, it was just a demo, right? And we had them go in and test it. So the fact that we could not only show on a screen what does this look like, but they got to go into the system, into the stage environment and click around. And that was a big deal, right? Because you can understand from an end user, somebody's like, oh, this is going to be so much better. And they're so jaded. They're like, I don't believe anything you say, right?
Yes.
You're compliance and I don't believe you.
Sometimes it's like, it's just a change. It doesn't matter if it's better or whatever it is. It's just a change, and that's just hard for people all around. Yeah.
So the fact that they could see a demo and actually go and click and try it was a really big deal, to get the business users to then give us feedback, to take to the chief compliance officer, to our general counsel, right, to the leaders, to say, the compliance team, we're all in. We have voted. This is our tool. But the business is actually in agreement, right? So that was big from my aspect.
Yeah, we were in a little bit of a unique place because we were spinning off from Cardinal, right? And we had nothing. So it wasn't we were making the business case to replace this tool that everybody's been using for 15 years, right? Like, they were driving the change for part of it, but the other part of it was, we're standing everything up from scratch. So, from that point, it was really about, the cost savings potential, and then also the flexibility in the workflows, and being able to customize things for different regions and different countries. Just having a lot of administrative control, and, I don't need a headcount person just to manage submitting support tickets. As much as we love the support team, I don't want to talk to you guys every day. Sorry. But
they are great and always available.
They are great and available, but I just don't. That's not what I want somebody on my team doing every day. Yeah. So so selling that hey, we can do a lot of this administration ourselves. It's going to cost less, and the workflow is going to be intuitive. That we almost don't need to provide training to people on this tool. So, that made the conversations a lot easier.
And the support team is amazing and very responsive, and but really, in all seriousness, the responsiveness, maybe it's because it's a smaller company, I don't know, but you asked for our wish list today of things that we want, and it's very small, because the things that I've gone to Raj, like, can you do this? Can you do? Yeah, actually we can, and yes, we can do this. And the cross border was one really, really big one for us, and I could give other examples.
Well, that's something that I love about working for Lextegrity, is that we want the feedback. We want to make these the best products and the best solutions. So I'm all ears to hear kind of what works and what isn't working, and where can we make improvements just to make all of our lives a little bit easier.
Yeah, I mean, we almost feel like we're part of this development team, because so many of the things that we bring up to Parth and team, it's like, hey, we want to see this, we want to see this. And it's like, okay, yeah, we can, that's on the, we'll put that in the roadmap. And there's so many things that we've seen come out that we've come to them and said, hey, we need to do this differently. We really like to see this. And then the other things that they bring to us that are coming forward is like, yep, we want that. So, it's like having a dentist. You want a good dentist, but do you want to go to the dentist every day? No. But when you need your dentist, you want a good dentist.
Yeah, it really is a true partnership. This is the second company where we've worked with Lextegrity, and you really feel like you're not just a number or you're getting shuffled around. Like everybody knows each other and wants to help each other out, and that's immensely helpful. What you had asked about how you get this, how we implemented it. So I think we were also in a unique position. The company's growing super fast, and one of the big complaints was just process. How long things take, and this wasn't just the compliance tools. This is the end-to-end procure to pay process. So we had a bit of a luxury in that there was appetite to streamline all of these processes, but we really had to demonstrate business benefit. That API that I mentioned early on in the talk was crucial. They didn't even want to hear moving from our homegrown tool to the new tool unless it talked to the contracting tool, because that was a major pain point for the business. We've also done our best to run reports on our current tool and who are our super users. And we've given not just demos, but they're actually doing the testing for us, and they're giving us their feedback directly, and they feel heard. And we set expectations that we can't address each and everything, but we're really trying to demonstrate that we're here to support them. I mean, I want everybody to read policies, but as we all know, there's so many policies and so many SOPs that I like to tell people, if you follow this tool properly and not as a tick the box exercise, you're following the policy and the SOP. You are doing this compliantly. You are picking fair market value. You're documenting the genuine business need. You're putting your closeout materials in. You're picking the appropriate number of advisors. You're looking at how many times you've engaged a particular HCP. You're getting the right people to approve it. And it's all in the same tool. So, what do you want? To read all the policies and figure it out? Or do you want to just, do it properly, but have it set out for you step by step? So that's been a big selling point.
That's great. Okay, so we've got some time. Are there any brave souls that would like to ask a question?
Don't be scared.
Yeah.
We're not a dentist. Oh,
Yes.
Yep, sure.
What are the external questionnaires that you're asking about to send out to a customer to fill out information?
So that was a part of the due diligence for third
Mhm.
parties. So there's the internal assessment that our business person who wants to hire a new distributor,
Mhm.
right? They answer questions, and then the system sends in the submitter, I'll call them, puts in the contact information of the person at the third party.
Mhm.
And then the Lextegrity system then sends them an email saying, you need to fill out this form, and they get access to the Lextegrity system, and they answer questions that we've developed within the tool. So it's really, really great.
That's great. I misunderstood because I thought you had said that Lextegrity could not send those out, or that those people could not get in the system. So that's great to hear.
Well, we had a little technical glitch. Somebody, it was just their browser. So yes, somebody couldn't access it, but it was because of their browser, not because of the system. So that was true what you heard.
Great. Awesome. Fantastic.
And going back to access, that reminded me. So we have our partner Baker Tilly to help us with transparency reporting. We've been able to get them access to the system to do that double checking and cross checking instead of us giving them reports. Like, they have access to Lextegrity and they are a third party. So that's very helpful as well. No?
Is there another question?
Yeah.
So you mentioned about the system admin. I'm supporting a client right now. One of the issues I'm having is I'm basically playing IT requests are coming to me.
Fun.
And what I want to know is what limitations as an admin. I realize with the system that I'm supporting a client with is I'm an admin, but I have a lot of limitations. I have to always go back to their support team for change workflows, or some of them, even as a user, it's so complicated, it's very difficult to change workflows or approvals. Is there anything you've seen where there's maybe limitations or things that you had to go back to support with?
So few, I can't think of any. So let's see, I can change approvers. I can change a submitter. So if somebody leaves the company or has a baby a month early, we can change the submitter. We can cancel tasks. We can't, what am I forgetting, Ron? We can do so much. What do I need to
Rearranging
come?
You can
questions,
adjust
maybe
user
in the
roles. Okay.
rearranging questions.
Oh, rearranging questions. Yes. So as far as the questionnaire goes, if I want to change a question, if there's a typo, yes, I need to go back to them to do anything like that. As far as the questionnaire functionality or change, like maybe we have 3 approvers for one and I want 2. Yes, we go back to them for that. But as far as
Well,
like
let me
day-to-day
just ask that. Let me
Yes.
answer that. Actually, we do have some functionality that's coming up to allow the users more flexibility in adjusting those things directly in the tool. Yeah, so we're excited about that.
I can't, is there anything
Yeah, I mean,
that I'm trying to compare to?
yeah, in terms of like the day-to-day workflow of like managing requests, we have pretty good control over that.
Oh, let's say somebody accidentally puts in an HCP for a second time and now we have a duplicate profile. I can inactivate one myself. I don't have to ask them to do that. Same for HCOs.
And no challenges. You found it very easy.
Oh,
to be able
it's
to do it on
literally
your own.
click a button. It's so easy.
Any other questions? Oh, yep.
Hopefully this is an easy one. Just in terms of the, you were talking about the search functionality. You can search for a doctor. It's easy. Can you search by like hospital group? Can you link profiles to certain organizations? That sort of thing?
So from an HCP standpoint, you can add their employer to the HCO database. And then when you put the HCP in, what it says employer, you can free text something, but you can also search for that HCO and attach them to that. I know there's functionality coming where we can merge. So if a
master data.
profile was duplicated, we can't merge them right now, but that's coming. What's another example?
Sorry, one other point I just wanted to mention is that we do have an integration with Viva too. So if you type in the name of an HCP, it will automatically ingest all of the master data from Viva to save having to double key data, from other systems. So that's another way that we join the dots on data.
And this is not answering your question, but it reminded me. So we ask a question about who's getting paid. Sometimes you pay the doctor, the HCP directly. Sometimes you pay their employer. Sometimes you pay an LLC owned by the HCP. So we've built those questions in with the help of the support team. And now that talks to the contracting tool too. So it brings the right template. Is it a 3-party transaction and things like that? So that's another neat feature we built in combination with the tool itself, but also the API with our contracting tool. Again, not answering your question, but it reminded me.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, I think we can go ahead and wrap up this session. So thank you, Hamani and Brooke and Aaron, for being here in person with us and just taking the time to kind of share your experiences. It's very exciting to hear about.